Hello, my name is Brian, and the project I have focused on for this course is on using technology to bring virtual education to Canada's Arctic. To set the context, let me say that the area I am focusing on is the territory known as Nunavut, which contains 28 mostly small, isolated communities accessible only by air. The population in Nunavut is dominantly Inuit, with a high percentage of young people under the age of 25. The schools all have internet access and computer labs for the students. However, bandwidth issues can mean that connections can be frustratingly slow, which limits the activities that can be used. Another issue is that teachers display a wide range of technological expertise, which therefore limits or can limit student access to computers. The big issue that many high school administrators face is how to offer certain courses, usually academic ones, when enrollments for these subjects is very low. Traditionally, this has meant combining classes, which is far from optimal. And this policy has caused students to transfer to other jurisdictions or even elect to drop out. Given this situation, one possible solution is to create virtual classes whereby an expert teacher in one community teaches students from other communities online. In this case, the technology being considered is a learning management system such as Blackboard Collaborate, which allows for both synchronous and asynchronous interaction. In order to help in the selection process of the best LMS to use, a simple flowchart tool was created. Other systems that were considered were Moodle, Desire to Learn, and Litmos. However, based on the criteria, it was decided that Blackboard was the best choice. It is a popular program containing all the required features to benefit students. In particular, Blackboard has a very intuitive interface in which the teacher is very prominently displayed in the panel. As well, a whiteboard is available as required, in which case the students and the teachers can interact graphically. There is a chat feature that allows students to communicate with the teacher or with other students. And the teacher has the ability to push out videos to the participants so that if the teacher wants to show a video, they can push it out to every student at the same time so everyone's on the same page in terms of what they're viewing. And finally, another advantage of Blackboard is the fact that it has the ability to create breakout rooms for student discussion in small groups. So they can go into the breakout rooms, have a discussion, and then come back to the larger group for a debriefing session, just like is possible in a real classroom. Of course, there are obvious barriers to implementing Blackboard technology or any other technology in this way. And first of all, there are four perspectives that we're going to consider in terms of these barriers. The first one being the schools. And the issue here is, are the schools able to provide enough bandwidth so that the computers can allow the use of a synchronous Blackboard interface? The next issue is are the teachers, in which they need to be, in this type of project, be able to work competently and confidently with the technology and such that it'll work smoothly and the students will achieve the best possible program. As well, the support teachers who are in the remote communities where the students are located must also be able to provide some academic support to their students. So these two issues in terms of teachers could be a significant barrier. The third possible area of barrier is the project itself. In this case, the initial expenditure of a significant amount of money for what seems to be a very small group of students can cause a very negative perception. And of course, I'll talk a little bit more in a bit about how that can also be turned around in the other way in terms of opportunities. And as well, in terms of the project, there's the issue of class scheduling, because Nunavut consists of 3 different time zones, and so trying to find a certain time for a class could be problematic. And then finally, there's the student side of the barriers in terms of how well they can adapt to an online education model, especially given that in many cases these type of venues for learning require a lot of self-motivation. And if a student is not used to that or doesn't have that ability, then there could be an issue there. But on the other side of the coin, there are also opportunities, of which providing students with a wider range of course selection in a cost-effective and efficient manner is probably the best possible opportunity. As well, this type of program opens the door for teacher professional development opportunities through taking online webinars, MOOCs, or short courses. If the students are learning online, there's just much chance that the teachers can use the same system to also supplement their professional development. And finally, having students become familiar with online education will allow them to be better prepared for such opportunities once they go on for higher education, seeing that online education is becoming much more popular. With these considered, we can now look at what the implementation process, which is a very, very critical aspect when introducing new technology. I have seen personally in the Arctic many new initiatives start up with lots of hype and a lot of push to get them going. And I think in many cases that push was a bit too much and things were progressed too quickly, and there wasn't enough time to step back and reevaluate and modify things so that the best possible outcome could result. So in this case, the implementation process will take a protracted approach. The first step will be for the teachers delivering the courses to work with the Department of Education, IT, and curriculum specialists to actually design the programs of studies. What will be exactly taught, how it will be taught, how it will be assessed. At the same time, the department will also be working with the local internet service providers to help ensure that the bandwidth requirements can be met when they're required, so that when the classes are actually going to happen, there'll be a maximum possible allowance for bandwidth so that the synchronous capabilities of the program can operate smoothly. Once this is done, then a pilot will be initiated, and that'll be advertised so that students and parents will be aware of it, and an application process will be implemented to select students who we feel would be best suited to the initial first pilot course. And after the pilot is completed, then the feedback received from the students and other stakeholders will be used to make changes and modify the program as required. And then at that point, full implementation will occur with the number of courses determined by the department and the staffing capabilities. And that will then be followed by an evaluation process, which is all part of this whole program we're looking at. So the evaluation is a critical stage, as it not only serves to provide justification to continue and or expand the program, but also allows for further feedback and modifications to be made. The evaluation is based on 4 guiding questions. The first being based on how things proceeded from a purely technological perspective. How good was the internet connectivity? Did it remain consistent throughout the whole session and also throughout the whole program? Because we want to make sure that the students are able to connect, especially synchronously, as required. The next guiding question, is going to be, well, how well did the students and the teachers handle or adjust to this new pedagogical approach? Most teachers have not taught online, and definitely for the students it'll be a whole new way of learning. So the question is, how well did they all adjust to this new format? The third guiding question relates to the actual programs and the materials that were used. Um, were the textbooks or the reference materials and the assessment processes, did they adequately address what was required for the program? And then finally, the the final guiding question that will be considered will be, how well did the initiative promote student-student interaction? And this is not just during the class time, but this is even beyond it, because living in the Arctic, where the communities are very isolated, students don't have much ability to communicate with each other, and so this initiative would provide a stimulus for students to start that whole interactive process with others in different communities. And so we would like to know just how much this promoted that sort of interaction. So these are the guiding questions, and obviously to answer those we need data. And so there are a couple data collection methods that will be used. The first being questions answered using surveys given to students, teachers, and as well parents. The other piece of data that will help to address those guiding questions will be numerical data from the internet service providers, in particular what the baud rates were during the classes. So we want to make sure with numerical actual data that we can say that the internet connectivity remained consistent throughout all the different classes that occurred, and it was at a high level to allow the synchronous interaction to occur without any problems. And then the other numerical piece of data that will be considered will be comparing previous assessment results for students from their previous years to the years that to the results that happened from the online course. And we won't just look at individuals, but we'll look at sort of cohorts of students as they go through the online courses and compare to how they did in the regular classroom. And this numerical data then will help help us to quantify the effectiveness of the program. So that's really the project in a nutshell in terms of the 4 areas that were required for this project. And the last part then is sort of my reflection on how I think the project went, and just in general about the course. So when I think about the course and reflect on creating this whole plan, I think for me the most difficult part was developing the tool to be used for selecting the appropriate technology, in this case Blackboard. The flowchart tool that I created was probably not the best for the situation, and I think if I were to go at things again, I would probably look at developing some sort of other tool that might be more effective. In terms of the rest of the project, I think the easiest part was describing the target environment, largely because I have a personal experience with living in the Arctic, and I think it was very satisfying for me as I created this plan to think that it actually made sense and seemed very sound. But then when I sort of thought about things further, I think the reality of knowing that there would be frustrations if this sort of initiative was started because of the political aspect. Having worked in the North, I know that politics can play a big role, and so I think I sort of developed a level of frustration knowing that I had this really sound plan, but it would probably not work out as smoothly in reality. And then finally, in terms of the course, I'd have to say that the videos were just excellent. I enjoyed listening to many of the experts talk about the implementation process, the evaluation process, and just getting different perspectives for different types of scenarios was very useful. And of course, then the peer feedback was also a great benefit. Although I think I personally would have liked to have more peer interaction, and I'm not sure if there was another way to help do that, or if it was more just me not taking more of the initiative. But definitely something that I would like to try to do more of, get involved with my peers more in the future. So that's my project. I hope it was interesting, and I definitely look forward to receiving feedback, and thank you for your time.